Should black people separate from white people? After the end of the Civil War and American slavery, some black people formed their own communities and started living separately from white people. Unfortunately, this led to horrifying conflicts between blacks and whites. One of the horrible incidents occurred during that time was the massacre on Black Wall Street, a community established and dominated by blacks. This area was completely self-sufficient in meeting all needs of the residents with little to no interaction with whites in other areas. White people invaded the community and killed black residents in destroying their homes and businesses. In today's economy, it would take $27 million to create that same community with the schools, churches, doctors and dentists, restaurants, hotels, skating rink, nightclubs, beauty shops and barbers, movie theaters, banks, law offices, clothing and grocery stores, etc. Everything the modern small cities of today enjoy. Literally, everything was lost. Fast forward to today, races have now intermingled and are now beginning to live together. Although laws say black and white people are free to live in any neighborhood with no racial restriction, we continue having incidents where everyone does not comply. Blacks and whites working next to each other has proven more successful than living next to another. Would blacks and whites living separately possibly be the answer? The answer is subjective, depending on who you ask. Nevertheless, here are some reasons why, no matter how appealing the idea sounds, many people may believe that blacks and whites should not separate. Point number 1, it would promote racism. Separating black people from white people means the racism we have been fighting against for many years more than likely would prevail. Intermingling is the ultimate remedy for global racism. The more someone is exposed to someone may help with acceptance. Blacks and whites would hopefully begin seeing each other as simply human beings. By living together, we can hopefully look beyond skin color and see each other as just humans. This may sound idealistic, but hope continues. However, if black and white people live separately, our minds will begin to be conscious of our color differences, whereas in the real sense, we are more alike than we think. Point number 2, it would affect the economy negatively. Separating black and white communities means whites will not benefit from the talents of black people and vice versa. When we live together, we can learn from each other. More importantly, we grow the economy together because there is an exchange of ideas, knowledge, and general social capital. Can you imagine not being able to access the best hairdresser, designer, plumber, doctor, and so on because the color of their skin is different from yours? Truth be told, that type of isolated society would surely slow growth and progress. That would be a huge disadvantage on any community. Point number 3, it could lead to a loss of lives. The most dangerous impact of separating black people from white people is the idea's capacity to lead to racial wars and massacres, such as what occurred on Black Wall Street. Racial segregation between whites and blacks will mean that the two races will be competing rather than collaborating. This may result in resentment and bitterness that could result in racial wars. When one race feels disadvantaged over the other race, they may be triggered to retaliate. For example, there will be conflict about the areas where the two races are allowed to settle. Some white folks may feel that blacks have been allocated a better place to settle and grow than the whites. Can you imagine wanting to buy a house in a certain part of town? However, you cannot because your race is not allowed to live there. These issues will bring about bitterness, wars, and eventually the loss of property and lives. Point number 4, it will negatively affect future generations. Separating blacks and whites means our kids and grandkids will grow up in an environment that encourages racism to the max. For example, a white child will not be accepted in a school that belongs to black kids. As a result, these kids will never know the beauty of people of a different race. They will not have the opportunity to learn from one another. Black and white kids will not even have the opportunity to be friends or engage in hobbies or other recreational activities together. Can you imagine raising your kids in an environment that discriminates against them based on their color? You will constantly live in fear of what will happen to your child whenever they meet people of a different race. So what's your feelings on the two opinions? Do you think America should continue developing ways to bring the races? Is it possible to coexist peacefully? Or would it be better to exist only with people who are like yourself? What do you think?